Welcome everyone. This is the episode number 46 of the Monthly Dev. So we started this series almost 4 years ago. I've been doing this for almost three years. We are almost at the end of 2024. Say hi in the chat if you are here. Let's do a quick sound check and then we can start. I'm super excited because today we'll talk about productivity and we try to shine as a productive tool for developers. So sound check. Is everybody out there? Hi. I got here. Hello. Perfect. I got here since the 1st of October. Sorry for letting you wait for so long, Hoodie. We are trying to do this just for you since you have been waiting for almost 4 weeks. I hope not actively in the chat below, but yes, nice. So. We can start. Before we start, maybe I would like to spend just a few words about what we do. So Daily Dev is basically a platform focused for developers. We have many features. You can start a squad, you can start this community, you can find posts to stay up to date. We try to do our best to make the developers as productive as possible. So this was also one of the ideas as a topic. Of course, during this event, we will talk about different ways on how you can be productive. But I think this is very important. I think for a developer, I never met a developer say like, I'm bored or like I don't want to optimize more productivity. Developers, they are meant to improve their productivity as they are engineers and so on. I see people nodding. Yes, so I think we can start. We have Christina, Jacob, and Andrew. This whole event will last for about 1 hour and a half. We have 30 minutes for each amazing speaker. And so now it's time to say bye to Christina and Jacob and stay here with Andrew. So see you later, Christina and Jacob. And let's start with my friend Andrew, because we met in person in Render.ATL, right?
Yeah, we did. No, we didn't meet at Render. We met at We Are Developers in Berlin.
Okay. This is the proof that I go to too many conferences. So, Andrew, you are a developer advocate. You are currently at a conference. So, kudos to you, first of all. Please introduce yourself, then introduce your talk. What will your talk will be about? I think is that about like ditch day to do?
Yeah,
right?
That's the one.
Okay. Yeah. Please.
Yeah. So, hey, everybody, and let me know in chat if audio is okay, because I know I'm in a conference venue here at All Things Open in Raleigh today. My name is Andrew MacLean. I'm a developer advocate for DevCycle. It's a feature flag management company. Today, I'm going to be talking about ditch the to-do and how to use Battlesnake as kind of the tool to optimize your learning process.
I'm very interested because I use sometimes some to-do list, more on pen and paper, but I wanted to see maybe what your talk is about. If you want, you can start sharing your screen. For me, your audio is nice. It's kind of silent, so we improved in terms of noise reduction. Perfect. Okay, so when you want, you can present. I see here, and of course you're doing this just with one screen, so this makes your life harder, but I know, Andrew, that you can do it, no problem. Okay, so if you are ready, I can let you start. So yes, and see you. Okay, I can hear you now. Try to say something. I can't hear you now. Don't know why.
That's because I'm muted myself.
Okay, that's probably, that might be the reason. Perfect. So, okay, Andrew, best of luck, and I'll stay in the chat. If you drop any question, I will keep track of them and we'll answer them at the end. Okay, bye-bye. Bye.
Amazing. All right, let me get this started. So, hey, everybody, I'm so excited to be here. I always like to start my talks with two things. One is a quote from somebody that's way smarter than I am, and one is a question. So I'll start with a quote. This is a quote from Albert Einstein: "Learning is an experience. Everything else is just information." So hopefully kind of sets the stage for what we're going to be talking about today. The question that I'm going to ask you sort of on that learning track is, what are some of the common projects you build when learning a new technology? And throw things in the chat, which I will not be able to see at all, but I'm going to assume some of the things that you're probably going to put in there in the next like 5 seconds or so. Because there's some pretty common things. Like there are some fairly like standard projects that you're going to see used. So some examples that I've seen are things like Hello World projects. Like, and I know this doesn't seem like a project per se, but it is. So you got Hello World projects. The one that's kind of the focus of our talk today, to-do list apps. Like they are a huge sort of tool that's used in learning. Often people are doing things like calculators, maybe a blog or like a content management system that you're building out, or maybe you're like building some sort of a simple game. So these are all like great projects, but they all have some pretty serious limitations. There's little room to innovate beyond their predefined scope. There's only so far you can go with like a simple to-do list app. A calculator only goes so far. A blog can only do so much. So there's not much to go beyond that kind of predefined scope. There's minimal opportunity for like that kind of community interaction. Like there isn't like a Discord server that you can join to like help me with my to-do list. And if you just go into the general Discord, like they're not necessarily always going to be able to help you or connect. And they honestly offer like very little lasting value or differentiation for you or your portfolio outside of actually just building them and I guess like exploring the technology at a really low level. So now I switch into my salesperson mode. What if I told you there was a project that addressed all these limitations and so much more? Like we said before, today's talk called Ditch the To-Do, Mastering New Technologies with Battlesnake. Again, my name is Andrew. I'm a developer advocate at DevCycle. There's my information if you want to find me. And at the bottom, there's a link that you can go to get this deck, and it'll be at the bottom during the entire talk. Amazing. So a little bit about me and why am I here doing this kind of talk about Battlesnake when I work for this company called DevCycle and talking about learning. So I've actually been in kind of the education world for a long time. Started out back in 2010 doing youth outreach, then went to a university and ran engineering outreach there. Became a teacher in 2019, and then actually pivoted into tech around the same time when I got my first tech gig as community manager at Battlesnake. Then in 2023, Battlesnake was actually acquired by DevCycle. So I now work at DevCycle and sort of focus there, but still get to play around and do some awesome stuff with DevCycle or with Battlesnake, and to share these great talks like this. All right, so what's our agenda going to be today? So first, why are we talking about learning in a productivity talk? Second, what is Battlesnake? Because you probably want to know, it's got a really cool name. We're going to talk about the rules and objectives of Battlesnake as a game, or the thing that it is, because you don't know what it is yet. We're going to talk about the API, and then I'm going to try and do a live tutorial. We're going to see if that happens. All right, so let's jump into things. So first off, why should we care about learning when we're talking about developer productivity? Well, if you're in the JavaScript world, you might recognize some of these names of JavaScript frameworks. And all you really need to know here is that as you look since like 2016 to 2022, there's been a huge number more frameworks just on the front end that exist now, and it's growing faster than ever. And there's tons of learning opportunities, like millions, billions of learning opportunities if you want to learn some of these frameworks and languages. But like learning and development resources are disappearing, and our time is really limited now as well. And so now, way more than ever before, we're really needing to learn how to optimize our learning experiences, so become more efficient at learning, be more productive at learning. So how does Battlesnake fit into this? Well, Battlesnake, like I said before, is a project that kind of answers all of those limitations of the kind of to-do projects that we looked at before. And you're going to get to see this in real time as we kind of explain kind of what it is. And it's really just a learning framework or sandbox. But what kind of a sandbox? Well, it's a game sandbox. So it's a multiplayer programming game based on that classic Snake game. So in this game, you program your Battlesnake to find food, avoid hazards, and stay alive. And so this is actually an image of like the game board and a bunch of Battlesnakes competing, and some of them are going after food and some of them are running into each other, and that's kind of the object of the game, is to try and be the last Battlesnake alive. So your Battlesnake is actually a live web server programmed in whatever language you want. It's framework agnostic, language agnostic. Basically, if you can build it in Go, you can build it in PHP, that implements the Battlesnake API. So here's an example of how it works. Our game engine is basically every time that, every stage that these snakes are moving on the board is another turn. And so every turn, the game engine is actually sending a request to all of the Battlesnake servers with a bunch of information. And then the Battlesnakes are returning what direction they would like their snake to go based on the information they see. So do you want to go up, down, left, or right? Which is really simple, really easy, but really, really able to be expanded. Amazing. So why learning? We got to be more efficient. What is Battlesnake? This kind of like language agnostic sandbox for learning and exploring. So how does it work? What are the rules and objectives to Battlesnake that make it such a great way to learn and so simple? So first things first, like I said, you want to survive as long as possible without being eliminated. And it's pretty simple to do that. You got to avoid walls. If you go outside the boundary of the game, you're going to be eliminated. And the game board is kind of set up in this like 11 by 11 grid at the default with like a 0, 0 in the bottom left is in terms of your location. You want to avoid yourself and others. So if you collide with yourself or another snake, you're going to be eliminated. So you want to avoid yourself. So simple rule so far, don't go outside, don't hit yourself or others. If there's a head-to-head collision, the longer snake is going to survive. And if both snakes are the same length, then they're both going to be eliminated. So those are like the collision rules that are important to know. The other piece that's in here, the other game mechanic is that your snake loses a health at every turn, and when you hit 0 health, you're eliminated. So if you eat food, you get more health, but your length also increases, and it's much harder to avoid things the longer you are. So some other technical notes here. Battlesnakes need to respond with a 200 response just to say that it's there. They have to respond within 500 milliseconds. And then any error, like if your Battlesnake is not functionally working, it will go up. And so even if that means it'll be eliminated, it's always going to go up. Yeah, and like I said, the last Battlesnake standing wins. Okay, so it's pretty simple rules, pretty simple sandbox, and what's even better is it's a very simple API. There's 4 endpoints you need to have on your Battlesnake, 1 get endpoint, 3 post endpoints, and the 2 we're going to focus on today are the get endpoint and the post move endpoint. So the get endpoint, when you get a request from the engine, it's actually going to be empty. And what you're using this one for is actually to send information from your server to say, here's what my Battlesnake looks like. So you're kind of defining the color of your snake and the head and tail, and these are all customizable and kind of a fun way to add a little bit of spice to the game. And you can see here that this is like the beluga head, the curled tail, and that purple color. So this is actually what my Battlesnake would look like if I use this JSON object in my return response. So the other side to this is that the post move request. And so when the agent sends it to your server, you're going to receive a whole bunch of information. You're going to get the game ID, board height and width, turn number, a whole bunch of information that you're going to get in like a structured JSON object. And you're going to respond, like I said, with up, down, left, or right. And we'll get a chance to look at what this actual request looks like in a minute. Amazing. So why learning? What is Battlesnake? Rules and objectives in the API? Time to jump into a live tutorial. And I wanted to dedicate the most time to this because I feel like it's going to show you how valuable this is as a tool to learning when you see how simple it is. So the great thing about Battlesnake, there are a ton of open source starter snakes. So if you know Python and you want to learn Go and you know the structure of the starter snakes, you can kind of translate and learn the syntax and structure just by using one of our existing templates. And you can see the top ones are officially supported. The other ones are community built. But today we're not going to use any of those because if something's going to go wrong, it might as well go wrong live on stream. And instead, I wanted to show you how easy it is to build a snake from scratch using a brand new technology you've probably never heard of. So the technology that we're going to use is Leaf PHP. It's a PHP web app framework similar to Laravel, but definitely not as large. And I feel like it was a good one to highlight. Why use Leaf? I love PHP, and that's having its moment. Leaf has got a low learning curve, batteries included, and it really just deserves some more love, which is the same reason that I really love Battlesnake. So there's going to be 7 steps that it's going to take us to kind of launch our snake, and we're going to use all of these technologies that are listed here for different steps. If you don't know them, don't worry, we're going to explain as we go. We're going to run a composer create project. This is like creating sort of like an npx create React app. We're going to create an index.php file, just a default one. We're going to run our local server. We're going to implement our endpoints. We're going to run ngrok, and ngrok is a way to share our local host out publicly to a shareable link. We're going to add our Battlesnake, and then we're going to run a test game. All right, so let's jump into our live coding. So I'm assuming everybody can see and hear everything that's going on. Can we see my VS Code? I'm going to assume yes. All right. All right, so Francesco, can you unmute and make sure that we can see my screen?
Yes,
All right.
yes, we can.
All right, perfect. All right, so we're going to go into here. We're going to go composer, and we're going to do create project, and then leaf/leaf to create our new project in my demo folder here. So here we go. We are creating our leaf project that is going to show up in here. And we should now have in our demo folder our leaf project, which is not there. So we're going to try this one more time. Oh, probably because I installed it in a different place. Let's go cd. Actually, let's see where we are right now. cd ls. There we go. cd. Amazing. All right. So let's go into our demo folder, or we'll just do it in our base. So yeah, let's run. I had everything working before, and then things fall apart when you're going live. All right, so where did I have this? In my documents demo? Amazing. All right, so let's go into file, open, folder, demo, open. Okay, sick. So now ls, cd, documents, ls, cd, demo. Okay, we're in the right place now. Let's try this again. So let's go composer, create project leaves. All right, now it's in the right place. So we've created our leaf project, and a leaf project is really simple. Some composer files. This is just like a package manager for PHP. We've got our app.php, config.php, functions, and router. Not super important, but this is a functional app that you have here right now. So that was step 1. The next step is we're actually going to go in here, and we need to go in and create an index.php file. So it's kind of like if you've never done PHP before, the index.php is similar to like index.html if you're doing just like kind of vanilla HTML and JavaScript. All right, so let's go into pieces, and we're going to grab our leaf index.php, and we are going to create it actually in, so cd into leaf, ls, and now we're going to go touch index.php. Awesome. And now I'm going to go into my index.php, and let's drag our example here. So here is a functional web server with Leaf. This is all it requires. It's just a little like 9 lines of code. We have our get endpoint that's going to return a JSON message of hello world, and it's going to run the app. So now I'm going to go in here and just do a quick time check. Yeah, we're good. And I'm going to go php -s, and we're going to go localhost 8080. We're going to run that. Let's try this again with our capital S. All right, so we started this over at localhost 8080. Let's go take a look. And amazing, we have got our hello world that is running right now. So it is an active web server, but it's not an active Battlesnake quite yet, because basically we're just returning this JSON object. So let's now add a little Battlesnake flavor to this. Let's change our get endpoint to be Battlesnake friendly. So a little bit of a change, very similar to what we had before, but we're going to replace that message JSON with some more information. So we've got our API version we looked at before. We've got our author, color, head, tail, and we can click save, head back over, refresh, and we should see our updated version. So believe it or not, right now you actually have an active or like a functional Battlesnake that you could add, but we need those other endpoints in there as well. So let's grab our other endpoints and add them in. I'm going to add them in right here. So now we've got our get endpoint for all that information, our start and end endpoints, which don't actually have any content or need it. And then we've got our move endpoint. And so remember, we're getting information and then returning a move. But right now, I just want to return a move to get my Battlesnake working. So we're going to click save, head back over, make sure everything's still working and running. And we're now ready to actually start to add our Battlesnake to the Battlesnake platform. So we can head over to play.battlesnake.com. I'm already logged in. Go to My Battlesnakes, and I'm going to create a new Battlesnake, which I'm going to call my daily.dev snake. And I need a server URL. Now, you might be seeing, you might be thinking, can I just go in and use my local host 8080? No, you need to use a tool like ngrok to be able to get a publicly accessible link that you can use. That's basically communicating what's on your local device out to the world. So we're going to go in, and I've got ngrok installed already. So I'm just going to open up another terminal, and we're going to run ngrok and http. And we're going to go http://localhost 8080. And super easy. It's just gonna do some port forwarding set there, and we'll know this is working because this should look exactly the same as my local host right now. I've got my silly head, my bolt tail, or whatever that color is going to be. So let's go now. We can grab this server URL. We can drop it in there. We're gonna set our engine region to wherever we're closest to. Not super important for you right now, but more when you get to higher levels. And we're gonna save our Battlesnake. So we're gonna know that this is working if we see our snake with the different colors and the different designs that we want on there. So I'm going to do a small change just to make sure that everything is working the way that I'm hoping it. I'm going to change the color of my snake to, like, I think maybe I'll do like the black as 0000000. Click save. And if I ping my snake, amazing. So he's changed colors. So we have our snake that's live there. And also to make sure it's working, go in and create a game. We're going to add this daily.dev snake to a game. And there we go. He's going right. And we want to be going right. We'll see if we want to go left. And let's create a rematch. And we're going left now. So our Battlesnake is working. So you just spun up a web server. We just spun up a web server, made it Battlesnake friendly, and kind of got it publicly working in like maybe 5 minutes together after all the things that needed to happen. So we've got our snake working, but let me grab back over to my slides. So we ran a test. We ran our composer project. We did our index.php. We ran all of the steps down 1 to 7 here. So we know that Leaf works really well with Battlesnake, but I wanted to challenge myself to add even more technologies on this stream just to show how easy it is to start exploring new technologies with Battlesnake, even in the same stream. So we're going to look at another technology like, say, I don't know, feature flags, being a feature flag company. So what is a feature flag? If you've never heard of one before, it's basically a conditional statement that toggles specific features on or off based on some sort of a configuration value. So you can see the right-hand side kind of represents what it is here. We kind of set our feature flag, which is that new feature configuration at the top, and then we're showing something if new feature is true and otherwise false. And you can have Boolean and strings and JSON variables as well. And today we're going to focus on string feature flags. And a feature flag management platform like DevCycle is focused on making those statements and values, like how to manage those at scale and to do like specific targeting of who should see specific features. Yeah, so why are we using DevCycle? All the same reasons why we're using Leaf, but also they're my company. So I figured why not show you how this can fit in as well. All right, so again, it's going to be 4 steps now to make a small change here using feature flags. We're going to add just DevCycle in just 4 lines. So we're going to run composer require. So we're going to install our PHP server SDK for DevCycle. We're going to initialize the client, and then we're going to actually set this to change our color based on feature flags. So there's a bunch of feature flags that I've set up over in the DevCycle platform, and we're going to have the ability to update our color of our snake externally from our code anytime we want. Yeah, then we're going to ping our snake and see if the color changes. So let's go back over here. We're going to go into create another terminal. Make sure I'm in the right place this time, and we're going to go composer require DevCycle /PHP server SDK. Install that. Hopefully I installed that in the right place. Let's see. Amazing. Awesome. Are we there? Did we get it? We did. Awesome. All right. So now a couple changes that we need to do in our code here. The first thing we're going to need to do in our code is we're going to need to initialize dev cycle. So to do that, we're just going to add a little bit of code right at the top, just like, and bring in our dev cycle client options and user. We're actually pulling in some options, not super important for you right now, but we've got our new client instantiation that's happening right here. We're defining a user, like you can set user ID to determine who's going to be targeted. Now we've got our dev cycle client actually initialized here in our snake. But there's still one step that's left to do to actually use that logic in there. And so let's grab a new, we're going to do a new get request now, feeding in a little bit of information. So we're going to feed in the dev cycle client and some user data. We're going to grab that color feature flag, which is going to grab that color variable, which is what we call a feature flag in our system, and then return it based on what it is seeing over on the dev cycle platform. And again, now we don't need to control our color here and do a redeployment. We can actually change it over on the dev cycle platform. All right, so I'm going to save that and head back over to my Battlesnake, and let's go into my Battlesnakes. And I'm going to know if this is working because right now I had hard coded my daily.dev snake to be black. Let's see what color my daily.dev snake is now. Awesome. So gone to the neon green because that's actually the flag that I've set up over on dev cycle to make sure that my snake is green. But maybe I want to change this to something different. I can just head over to devcycle.com, log in. Yeah, we got time. We can log in, and I can show you exactly what this looks like. All right, that's going to log in for a second. Amazing. So I'm going to go into my daily.dev project that I created here. I'm going to go into my color feature flag, and you can see here that I've got a bunch of colors that are set up here, red, green, and blue. And I've got some targeting rules saying send all users green. I'm going to change this. Maybe I want my snake to be blue, set it to save. It's going to update there, head back over to the Battlesnake platform, do a little bit of a ping here, and all of a sudden it's changed to blue. No change to my code, all changed on the platform. And now I could decide to change my snake's color every game that I go out without ever actually having to go in and do anything in the code itself. So kind of a cool implementation of feature flags in a slightly different way than you might normally use them. But I think what's really cool here is that you're basically able to do all of this in like, what's this, 46 lines of code. And this is all just, you could literally take this and plug and play any language that you wanted, and you would be able to sort of understand how this all works to go and explore and add new technologies. Maybe you want to add a database to store the past moves that your snake has made. Easily just add it in here, and honestly, often is only in a single file. Now, this is obviously not doing anything with the information that it's getting. So the last one that I want to do is I want to show you this advanced logic. So this is my game state information. So we're going to change up the move endpoint. So we were setting it just to go left all the time, but what if we want to do something different and instead we're actually pulling in the game state, and again that's sent every move, and now we're going to extract from that game state some information. So there's like a bunch of information that's in here all the time. There's a U body, and you can actually get the XY coordinates. And I'm going to say if my head is at 0, so if it's on the left-hand side, don't keep going left if I'm going left. I want you to go down if you hit there. So let's see if this works. We're going to click save. We're going to head back over to our platform, create a game, and add our snake to our game. And our snake should go left until he hits a wall, and then he should go down if our code is working here for some more advanced game logic. Amazing. So we have got a snake that's working. We've already added some more sort of really basic logic in there, but it gives you an idea that you can just sort of learn how to parse through all of this data as well. So back into our presentation. Yeah, so there's some other steps that are obviously involved in here. So you'd want to implement basic strategy like avoiding your neck and avoiding walls in your body. You would obviously want to commit the same code that we just wrote here to a Git repository, deploy to cloud hosting, all new technologies you can explore using this same platform. And then you're going to want to continue to revisit and extend and build and share your Battlesnake, some things that you don't normally do with that kind of to-do app. By the way, if you'd like to try this leaf stake for yourself, I actually created a starter project that you can run on Replit. So in the presentation, click that. It's on Replit. Literally use the template, and you can try this out yourself. Let's go full screen again. Amazing. So some key takeaways in the last kind of 45 seconds that we have together. Productive coding requires efficient learning. That's a really important piece of this developer productivity. Learning never stops, and neither should your projects. And fun, flexible challenges like you get with Battlesnake lead to way deeper learning. That's it for me. Thank you all for checking this out. I hope you go check out DevCycle, go check out Battlesnake, and I hope you'll just continue learning and exploring. Here is where you can find me all over the internet. Yeah, super happy to answer some questions that folks might have.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Yes, we have like literally a couple of minutes for questions. First of all, congratulations for your demo. Of course, the initial problem was staged just to grab attention of people. We know this is an old trick that we do. We have one question here, and then I have a couple of them. So at some point, you start talking about these endpoints and API, maybe at the beginning. Maybe if you want to explain maybe how do they work, if they use packets, or maybe this person is asking about like how you can use this API, I think.
Yeah, so the API can only be used for Battlesnake. So basically when you build out this server, it's really only set up to be used for Battlesnake. So you are fundamentally building something that the Battlesnake game engine can speak to, and it only ever speaks to those 4 endpoints that are there. So basically it's a way to explore building really simple APIs. It's a way to explore how to parse through data that you're receiving from somebody. So it's really this like cool learning platform that you can use those endpoints and the data and the way that it's being processed to just explore different technologies and go really deep. Hopefully that answers your question.
I think it was hypnotical. If you want, you can do a follow-up question. Yes. So first of all, I'm disappointed that you didn't mention Rust and you mentioned Go. I'm joking, of course, but you mentioned like different languages that you can use this. No, one question is that you showed this Leaf, this PHP framework. So and then you use this framework with the DevCycle, right? So this DevCycle can only be used with this Leaf PHP framework, or also with my own custom.
No, so that's what's great is you can use DevCycle and Leaf and Battlesnake. They're all language and framework agnostic, so you can plug into basically any language. So if you're a Go developer, you can do Battlesnake, Leaf, and DevCycle in Go. If you're a JavaScript developer, same thing. Basically any language that's out there, you can use any of these technologies that we looked at today.
Okay, so Leaf is not just for PHP.
So Leaf is just a PHP framework, but Leaf is limited to PHP, but DevCycle and Battlesnake are framework agnostic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. I have one quick question, if we don't have anyone. I saw that during the demo, you were doing some drag and drop with coding. That was amazing.
Yeah.
That was mind-blowing. How have you done that?
Oh my goodness. So I saw this yesterday here to talk. Jim Bob Bennett from Pieces for Developers. Go check it out. Pieces for Developers. Yeah, that's a tool. It's part of their app. It's basically like Pieces. So check out Pieces, and you can actually get that functionality as well. It's perfect for doing these kind of demos, right? It was amazing.
Okay, kudos. I didn't know. I know Pieces, but I didn't know this functionality, so I'll check it out. Thank you so much. Shout out to Pieces.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Andrew, thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming during a conference. So you did a talk during the conference, and it was great. Thank you so much. We left all the links in the description below to follow Andrew everywhere, to know more about Battlesnakes and so on. So perfect. Thank you so much, Andrew. And if you can stay, otherwise, no worries, and enjoy the rest of your conference. Okay?
Yeah, I may come back in a little bit, so I'll be back for the end.
I love the energy of this man.
I love it. Bye.
Bye. Okay. Perfect. Nice. Thank you. And now we are at the second speaker. So we have Jacob Bank. So Jacob, thank you so much for coming. And please introduce yourself and let me know more about what your talk is about.
Yes. Hey, everyone. My name is Jacob Bank. I'm the founder of Relay.app. And my talk is going to be about automating non-dev tasks. So I know you're all developers in the audience. I know most of you like to spend your time writing code, doing design work, etc. But I bet you're bogged down every day by many things that are not that. And I'm going to talk about some of the common administrative and cross-functional collaborative tasks that developers don't enjoy spending time on and how you might be able to automate them.
But I think this is great. So first of all, it's a bit shocking that developers do something else other than coding. So sounds new to me.
Yeah.
Okay. So today I learned something new. But I like this approach because if you don't like something, maybe you don't want to spend all your day on it. If you really like it, maybe you are more likely to spend time. But when you don't want to do something,
yeah, if you enjoy filling out your project status update spreadsheet every cell every week, you're welcome to keep doing it manually. But there may be another way.
Nice. Thank you so much. Jacob, if you want, you can start sharing your screen. As usual, you can drop your questions during the talk, but we'll have also quick Q&A session at the end. Jacob, the stage is yours, automating non-dev work for developers. So it's interesting. And yes, thank you so much. And see you in around 25 minutes. Okay?
Sounds
Bye-bye.
good. So that's me. I'm Jacob. I'm the founder of Relay.app. You can reach me there over email. And my hope is that after this 20 minutes, every person in the audience will have at least one thing that they don't like doing in a given day or in a given week that they can automate out of their lives. And I think I'll give you a little bit about my background and why I'm a reasonable person to give this talk. So once upon a time, many, many years ago, I was a developer, but for the last 10 years, I've been either a product manager or a startup founder. And so I am one of those evil, non-technical people that's responsible for putting all of this administrative and collaborative overhead on your work that keeps you from doing what you really enjoy. So I have a firsthand experience in what these things are. And second, I've been working in productivity tools my whole career. Most recently, I was the product lead for Gmail and for Google Calendar and for a few other productivity tools within Google before founding Relay.app. So I've also studied pretty extensively where people spend their time and how you might be able to build tools that help people spend time more on what they want to do and less on what they don't want to do. So if you've worked in a development organization of any size, you've probably been involved in developer productivity efforts or heard of developer productivity efforts. I've seen a ton of them over the years. And they usually focus on a sort of a narrow slice of the things a developer does in a day. I've seen a lot of projects that are working on like testing infrastructure, deployment infrastructure, best practices, code conventions, etc. And that's all good work that developer productivity teams and efforts should try to do. But in this talk, I want to talk about the non-development components of developer productivity. So I found this little survey from InfoWorld, but there's like a million similar surveys that I've seen like it that try to break down for a typical software engineer how much time is spent on true development tasks and projects and how much time is not. And I found this to be like one of the more representative and reasonable breakdowns, which shows that designing coding does indeed take a plurality of the time, if not a majority of the time in a typical week. But administrative tasks and brainstorming and collaboration take a material amount of time. In this survey, they found that it took, I think, about 12 hours out of a 40-hour work week. If you've worked at larger companies or been a manager or been responsible for larger teams, those numbers go up dramatically. At Google, in many cases, engineers, I think, would spend 3/4 of their time on these sorts of tasks and only 1/4 of the time on their core design and coding work. So what actually are the tasks in these buckets and which of them may lend themselves to automation? So I put together like a quick breakdown of some of the most common categories and examples that I've seen. And we're going to use those as inspiration when we talk about specific use cases in a moment. So first, project management looms large as a source of administrative friction for developers. I think we've all been part of status updates, progress check-ins, alerts that you haven't done something in time. I remember there was a time when I was working on a large project at Google where like every week I would get 7 emails from different project managers asking me to update the status of the same project in a different spreadsheet. And that's representative of sort of a large company development environment. But even in small startups, there's very reasonable need to stay in touch of when has someone finished a bug, when has someone completed a feature, or who needs to know what happens next, et cetera. The second big category is meeting preparation and follow-up. Whether it's setting agendas in advance, sending out reminders and notifications, taking notes, taking action items, and then taking action on them after. Third, if you're writing documents, design documents, product feature documents, architecture diagrams, there's going to be a lot of document hygiene that's involved in those. How do you resolve comments when people have them? How do you make sure they're shared with the right people? How do you organize them and put them in the right place in whatever your internal knowledge management system is, whether it's Notion or Google Docs or Drive or Confluence or whatever it might be. There's HR mechanics, like when you're going to go out for vacation, performance reviews, uploading receipts for any expenses you've accrued. And I'm sure there are many, many more examples of administrative tasks, but these were a few that jumped out to me. And then in cross-functional collaboration, you often have a need to interact with a different function in the tool that is natural to them. So for example, many developers and development teams interact closely with customer support, because customer support will use a tool like Intercom or Zendesk, and they'll get tickets in from customers. And then that will need to somehow flow into a Jira or a Linear or whatever you use for issue tracking on the engineering team. And so there's a lot of cross-functional collaboration overhead in filing bugs, making sure the bugs have repro steps, making sure that the right information about the customer is passed through, and that you can then close the loop when the bug is fixed. Similarly with marketing, if you are more of a front-end developer or work closer to the business side of the company, you'll probably get a lot of requests for marketing, either to pull data to give to them to design some campaign, or to make changes to the website or email. Like, it's very common that a marketer will say, hey, can we just add this one email into our onboarding sequence? Or can we add a new transactional email for when someone becomes a paid subscriber? And then third, kind of calling back to the previous slide, in working with product and project managers, there's a whole huge set of updates and check-ins that you might need to do on a day-to-day basis to make sure everyone's aware of the status of your work. And I'm sure there's many other examples of administrative and cross-functional collaboration work that you all do all day. And feel free to drop ideas in the comments. But the good news is that you can actually automate a lot of this. Not all of it by any means, but you can automate a lot of it. And for the next 10 minutes or so, I want to give you a little overview of the tool that we've built, which is a workflow automation tool, and show you a bunch of examples of how we, in our 10-person startup, have automated a bunch of this work. And then we'll go through a live demo where I'll build a couple workflows so you can see how easy it is to create a simple automation. So what is Relay.app? Relay.app is a workflow tool that lets you automate common actions across your apps without needing to write code. And I know this is a technical audience, so all of you can write code, but there are still 2 reasons why you might want to use a UI-based tool like this that does not require you to write code. One is it may be faster and easier to set up the automation that you want. And second, if you're collaborating with a non-technical counterpart, and I'll show some examples of this, if you're collaborating with a non-technical counterpart, it can be really valuable to have the workflow represented in a way that they can also view it, reason about it, and edit it if necessary. So Relay.app has 3 major components that are relevant for this conversation. The first is it has deep integrations with over 100 products, including many of the ones that you probably use for cross-functional collaboration within your team, whether it's Gmail or Slack or Google Calendar or Notion or Airtable or HubSpot or Salesforce. And we make it easy to create automated actions across those apps without you needing to understand the details of what actually goes into the API. Second, there's a robust automation language that includes a bunch of the essential capabilities of an automation tool, like paths that let you create workflows that are conditioned on some output, or iterators that let you run for each loops for every item that's come back from a spreadsheet, for example, and webhooks and HTTP requests that let you interact with your custom systems, which we find very useful for our internal use, and many of our customers do too. And then last but not least, you can build AI steps into your workflow. So if you ever have a situation where you need to summarize some long form content or extract some action items to later feed into an issue tracker, you can let AI do that for you as a native component of a workflow. And so with that, I want to show you a few examples of workflows that we use internally that I think are broadly applicable to lots of developers and lots of software engineers in companies of various sizes. And we have, I took this like very zoomed out screenshot. We have dozens and dozens of automations on a team of just 10. And so I would challenge you that even if you're a solo dev, like an indie hacker or working in a small team, I bet there's a bunch of stuff that you can automate. So here's the first and simplest automation that I want to show, which is forwarding receipts to your finance provider. And so this is a two-step workflow. There's a trigger and an action. Every time an email is received that has the word receipt or invoice in the subject, we automatically forward that email to our finance provider, which in this case is Ramp, but you could forward it to wherever you want your receipts to go. Another slightly more complex use case that I think is relevant for many people building products is we have a new user sign up workflow. So in this case, the trigger is a webhook from our internal system when we log a sign-in event. And then we have a few automations that happen in two different products. First, we add the new user to HubSpot, which is our CRM, so that if their usage starts to become significant, we can put them into a sales process. And then in steps 3 and 4, we're working with our email marketing tool, which is called Loops, where we're looking up or creating a new contact for that new user. And then we're sending to Loops that we have a new user that's in our signup flow. And so this is an example of making cross-functional collaboration way easier for yourself, because once you've sent this webhook to a Relay.app workflow, anyone on the marketing team or the customer success team or the product team who wants to add some information into another product or initiate a new email or do something else with that user, they can do so directly in this no-code workflow as opposed to having to ask you to write a bunch of code for it. Another use case that we found very useful for internal operations is a daily review of all of the support issues that are open from our customers. So here's how this workflow works. Every day at 6 a.m., it looks in our issue tracker, which is linear, and it looks for issues that are open support issues. And if there are no open issues, we go down the right path where nothing happens. That's never happened. If there are open support issues, which happens basically every day, we send a message for each issue to our customer issues channel that includes the details of each issue and it pings the assignee who's responsible for that issue. Another simple one that we have that uses AI effectively is that we have a daily team meeting. We use a tool called Firefly's AI to automatically create a transcript for us. And then we have an AI step using GPT-4o to summarize that transcript and send it out to our stand-up channel in Slack. And last but not least, I want to show you a more complex example to show you how these workflows can kind of scale in complexity as you have more complex business operations that you need to account for. This is our workflow for when we get a new paying customer. We use Paddle as our billing system because they're a merchant of record and we have international customers. And we do a bunch of stuff when a new customer comes up. First, we have to update our how did you hear about us tracker so that we know which marketing channels have converted to this paid customer. Then we have a bunch of internal spreadsheets where we track revenue in different ways from different kinds of customers. And we have to update that to make sure our ARR calculation is all correct. And then finally, we want to alert the team that we have a new customer and then put them into a new email marketing campaign, which is when a paying customer signs up, we ask them to give us a nice G2 review. And so we do this in an automated fashion whenever they sign up for a paid plan. So those are 5 simple examples that range from like super simple email forwarding up to this, 21-step multi-path new customer workflow. And, depending on the size and shape of the company where you work or what your projects are, I'm guessing some variety of these use cases may be useful to you. And with that, I actually want to do a quick demo to show you how you could build a workflow for yourself in just a couple minutes. And so the workflow I wanna show here is an out of office alert. So many teams have an out of office calendar or some system for managing how people go out of office. And I've personally been in the situation many times where someone has gone out of office and I totally forgot that was happening. And then I realized that I need them for something. And so what we do is we have an out of office alert that a day before the person goes on vacation, it sends a reminder automatically in Slack with the details of that person's vacation. And I'm going to show you how to build that automation right now. So in this case, the trigger is going to be a Google Calendar trigger for event upcoming. Google Calendar is the calendaring software we use. And in our case, we have a specific team out of office calendar that we use to update when people are out of office. And so you can see here are the upcoming times when people on our team are going to be out of office. And in my case, I want to actually get an alert 2 days before the person goes out of office in case I need to ask them for anything before they go out. If you want to add a filter, like for only a subset of people on your team or only for out of office events that are longer than some period of time, you can do that here. But in this case, I want to be notified for all out of office events. And again, you can check here in this trigger preview box, like what are the upcoming events that would trigger this out of office workflow. Then all I want to do is send a message in Slack. And I want to send a message from the Relay bot. I want to send it to our stand-up channel. And I want to say, let's put in a little like palm tree emoji. Is there a palm tree? Yeah. Upcoming vacation for... And then I can reference some data from the calendar event. And so I can say upcoming event for this person, details here. And then let's see, I can reference maybe the title of the event. And I can say starting on the start date of the event. And let's see, I want to format the start date. That's a little bit verbose. So I can say starting on January 30th, 2024. And so that's all there is to it. Now, every time an event is added to the Team OOO event, it sends a message to this stand-up channel from the Relay bot letting me know that that's the case. You can test it with an existing upcoming event. So if I create a test run here, you'll see that it's going to send a notification for Luis's upcoming event. And you can make sure that the content of the message looks like what you expected. So let's see what it sent. It said upcoming vacation for, it looks like it didn't get his name right. So I'll have to fix that in the workflow. Details here, Luis OOO public holiday starting November 1st. And then now that I've tested, I realize like, that upcoming vacation text is not actually necessary. So I can just delete that entirely and just rely on the title of the event. And now I can publish this change to the workflow. I can turn it on. And now every time there's a new event added to the team out of office calendar, I'll get an automatic notification in Slack. And so with that, I think we're running up on time a little bit. So I won't do another demo, but maybe I'll open it up for a couple of questions so that we can move on to our last speaker on time.
Can you hear me? Okay. Yes. Okay. So thank you so much, Jacob. So if you have any question, you can drop it below. So first of all, thank you so much for the demo and to make this very clear. The app looks very simple and easy to use for me. I never used that, I'll be honest. But for example, I've been interested into the Slack integration. Maybe if you want to share some other features, since we use Slack at daily.dev. So because I think it's a powerful integration, maybe. So maybe you can expand a bit on that.
Yeah, and Slack is one of our most used integrations, as you'd expect. And in most cases, we find that development teams and tech teams in general, they live in Slack And so when things happen elsewhere, they want to publish updates into Slack. Now, many tools already have native integrations. GitHub has a native integration. Most issue trackers have a native integration. But in many cases, the native integration won't give you the full flexibility or control to articulate exactly what you want to get into the Slack channel. So what a tool like Relay.app, our customers find very useful, where you can set a more precise trigger on, for example, which subset of linear issues merit sending a Slack message. And then you can also have more control over the Slack message that gets sent into the channel. For example, when a bug gets filed, or when a bug gets marked as done and you want to close the loop with a customer. The other thing that I didn't have a chance to show is we have a capability called human in the loop tasks, where you can send someone a simple form over Slack or an approval step over Slack. And then once they fill in that little form or click approve, something will proceed with the workflow. So let's say, for example, you want to create an AI system that automatically scans your incoming email and files bugs if it notices a bug in an incoming email. You could have a little approval step that says, do you want to file a bug with these parameters based on this email? And then you get a message in Slack. You could hit a one-click approve button, and then the bug would automatically flow into Jira or Linear or whatever your bug tracking tool is. So those are the two main ways we see people using Slack, as notifications for things happening in other systems, and as a lightweight way to add human in the loop approval or data input for common workflows.
Nice, thank you. And I have one more question, which is like, what is like, I don't know, if you can give some upcoming features that are coming up now or in 2025 we are currently working on. I'm trying to
so a feature that
information.
we are in the process of launching now that is kind of a cool one is the ability to have shared connections. And so one of the things that we see very commonly is one person in the company is more technical than everyone else, and they're good at building out these kind of automations, but they need to do so using the credentials of a service account or the credentials of a salesperson that has access to their Salesforce instance. So now we've created a system by which one person in a company can connect to their underlying tool, Salesforce, Linear, whatever it is, but let other people in the company build automations on top of that. Of course, you have to handle this with care. With great power comes great responsibility, but it's a very valuable mechanism by which people can build collaborative workflows in a way that not everyone has to rebuild the workflow for themselves.
Nice. Thank you. Soliman is asking something. I don't know if maybe if you can elaborate more, because I'm not sure. Can do this by front frameworks? I don't know. Soliman, maybe you can explain what do you mean by this? I don't know if maybe he's asking how can this be integrated with some framework or other stuff. Maybe how can this be integrated with other frameworks?
Yeah, I'll answer two versions of the question that I think that I think may be relevant here. One is we do not have an embeddable version of this workflow automation tool. So we've had a lot of requests from developers who build, let's say, like, I build a vertical CRM for real estate agents, and I want to make automations that are cross-product available in that product. We don't have a way to directly integrate what we've built into your native application, but we do have a pretty robust set of webhook-based triggers and custom HTTP requests. And so you can use Relay to interact with whatever your product is in a variety of ways.
Okay. Nice, thank you. Yes, sorry, I was busy because I was trying to put the Relay up here in the in the video. Thank you so much, Jacob. So I think that this was like a very great explanation, and I liked the small demos. And yes, so thank you so much, Jacob. And if you want to stay at the end, I will give an extra shout out. Otherwise, thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming. Okay, nice. Thank you. Bye-bye. Let me remove these. Okay, we have just one more speaker. So we have Christina Forney from UpLevel. So Christina, thank you so much for waiting for so long.
No problem.
And now it's your turn. So please introduce yourself and then let me know more about what you are talking about today.
Yeah, I'm Christina. I'm the VP of Product at UpLevel. We are looking at what are the costs of engineers' times? How are developers distracted? What's really going on? So we'll kind of going into the other side of Jacob's conversation. So this will be a nice continuation, I think, of that topic. I have a background as a developer. I've kind of gone back and forth between being in product and being a developer. And a lot of that was because I've been really focused on developer tools and wanting to serve the developer audience and understand the problems that they are facing and experiencing and getting their work done. So I just kept asking questions and wanting to know more. And then I ended up in product and I'm like rejecting it. I want to be a developer. No. And then I get up in product again. So here I am. I've been largely focused on dev tools for most of my career. I've thought a lot about developer productivity and what it takes to be productive as a developer. So happy to talk about that today.
Yes, thank you. We made a poll asking like, how much do you feel productive? I think we have like just 30% of the people who feel productive as a developer, so not that much, I would say. We also have 20% of saying that I am a disaster with productivity. So we also have some people who really voted like they're really here because they really need this. Yep. So Christine, I'm gonna share your screen, the hidden cost of content switching, and as a developer advocate I know something about content switching, so now I let you stay on stage, and at the end I'll come back for the questions. Okay, best of luck.
Awesome. Okay, so let's talk about context switching. I already gave my introduction. This is my email. You can reach me here. I've been a developer. I've had the privilege of working with some of the most amazing developers, just incredibly prolific, productive people. And so a lot of this talk is really focused on kind of what I learned from seeing how they did their jobs so well. So the first question that I want to start with is, what is flow? What does it mean to be in flow? What does it mean to focus? In the movies, we often have, these developers who are coding under high stress situations and everything happens so fast, and it's just not really reality. In reality, we are quietly at our desks, we're thinking, we're working through problems, but way too often it just feels like this. I'm frustrated, I'm confused, I'm not focused, I'm having a hard time getting my work done. And I can just be totally exasperated and overwhelmed and buried in a pile of work around me. So what is the culprit? It's the main topic of our talk here, and that is context switching. So fun fact is that context switching is actually a computer science term that has been adopted in kind of how people work. And so it's really referring to the process in which schedulers on a CPU are switching threads from one to another. And there is a incurred delay and there's an overhead to that context switching. So we invented it as computer scientists, and we're living in this strain and this pain today. So pulling in some research and resources, when you're thinking about context switching, it can take 23 minutes for you to fully be able to switch between tasks. On top of that, you're going to be more stressed, you're going to be more frustrated, you're going to have a bigger workload, feel more pressure, and have to put in more effort to get the same amount of work done as if you were totally in flow or focused states. There's also this concept of something called attention residue. So this is where your brain is holding on to tasks prior to that you were focused on prior. And so even if I'm switched into something new, my brain's still working on the thing that I was thinking about before. And the thicker the residue, meaning the bigger the interruption, the more distracting it was, the more it made your brain think or work, the harder it is, like the worse your performance is going to be, the harder it is to get back into focus, to get back into flow, to do those harder, deeper tasks like are required of hard coding tasks. On top of that, when you have fragments or interruptions, it can take you more than 20 minutes to recover from an interruption. And so one way to think about this is if I check my phone twice during an hour, I will have lost 2/3 of my time of that hour to that residue and that interruption that happened in my flow. So even though it's only a very short, quick interruption, checking a notification, looking at what's going on, it has a really high tax, a really high toll on your ability to think more deeply about the work that you're doing in front of you, which is really required for hard, complex coding problems. So what is our solution? Again, the best developers that I have ever worked with are fiercely protective of their time, and they just seem to be able to be vastly more productive than any other developer that is around them. And more often than not, it's because they're just really, really good at doing deep work and protecting their time and protecting their calendar. Deep work is a concept introduced by Cal Newport. Fabulous book, highly recommend if you're wanting to learn more about the impact of deep work on your brain. But it's really about being in a state where you are distraction free and fully focused, and creating that environment so that your brain can do its best work. Okay, but how do I do that? What are some tactics that you can take home? What should you be thinking about as you approach this problem space? So the first is to protect your attention. So we talked about the high tax of context switching, moving between tasks, of being interrupted, of having a lot of fragmented attention, of having that residue that sticks with you. And so the best thing you can possibly do for your productivity, especially as a developer, is to protect your attention. My least favorite thing in the whole world is notifications. I am super anti-notifications. I think they are terrible, and are just an intrusion on how you spend your time. So first and foremost, any little pop-ups, notifications that are disturbing you during your day, those need to be off. Slack notifications included. So I'll get to my kind of perspective on Slack culture in a little bit. But notifications are just an interruption. They're changing your attention, they're changing your focus. It's a constant interruption. So getting your notifications turned off, both on your computer, on your phones, and setting up space so that you're quietly able to pay attention to what you're doing in front of you. It allows you to start to take back control. So you get to choose, when am I checking my notifications? When am I checking my messages? Rather than letting those just be intrusive on me whenever that they happen to show up or come by. So number one, biggest thing, if you do one thing from the talk today, is just turn off all your darn notifications. The next is to batch your work. So this is things like checking email or Slack in batches. So setting time aside on your calendar, or just having a certain time of the day that you check your email and Slack is really much better than being interrupted all throughout the day. When you have tasks, see if you can batch them, if you can get into bigger chunks. Maybe I'm trying to burn down, there's like these 10 bugs I want to get to. Can I just have a big work block to focus on working through those bugs? Because what you'll see is you'll actually be able to work through them faster or more effectively, and be able to get into that problem solving space much more quickly. And then meetings. I hear this all the time. Developers love to complain about how they are in too many meetings, they can't get their work done, they can't focus. And so trying to batch up your meetings so that you don't have interruptions throughout the day, and can stack your calendar, helps you maintain, I'm in meeting space or I'm in workspace. Keeping your work in progress low. So oftentimes you'll be working on a task and maybe somebody, your manager, says, hey, can you do this thing for me? Or, hey, this bug just came in, can you address it today? Lots of times, because we were asked to do this, we want to immediately jump in and start thinking about that new problem, even allowing that interruption to come in and get in front of you is going to change your brain. You're going to start thinking about that next problem instead of staying focused on the work that you're doing. But as much as possible, if you can work to completion, keeping that work in progress low, you're going to reduce the amount of time you're spending switching between tasks. You can let go of the past and move on to the next. It'll help you be more focused and stay more on task instead of trying to do a lot of things all together. This is a big pitfall that I see, especially junior developers fall into, is they try and do a little bit of work on a lot of things. And that means they only do a little bit of work on a lot of things, and all of those things take a really, really long time. And this often leads to a pretty big misperception from managers where they're thinking like, hey, you're just not working very hard, or you're not getting your tasks done, or you're really slow. But the reality is you're just trying to do too many things instead of focusing on one thing at a time, getting it done quickly, and then moving on. The next thing that you really want to think about and pay attention to is, how am I managing my energy? And that has to do with your own personal style. It's a very, very personal thing. You have people who are night owls, and they really get their best work done in the afternoons, in the evenings, and like it's the worst thing in the world to wake up for a really early morning meeting, or even just have to be somewhere at a certain time, like having to show up at the office at a certain hour. And then you have other people who are morning birds, and they do their best thinking first thing in the morning before they've had time to have the world saturate them. And they're just very different working styles, and neither is better than the other. There's a lot of kind of controversial kind of perspectives on, the most productive people have early mornings, whereas, it's not necessarily true. It's really about just managing your own kind of circadian rhythm and figuring out, when can I do my best thinking? When can I do my best work? And so, that's just a really important thing for you to think about as you're working. Next is thinking about how you collaborate and really trying to collaborate intentionally. So, number one thing that I talk about and think about when I go into a new organization is, what is the company's Slack culture? Are we treating Slack like instant message, always on, you can get a hold of me at any time? Or are we treating Slack more like email, where we can respond to it asynchronously when we're available, when we can be pinged appropriately? And a really important conversation to have is with your team, and set the expectations, is like, what do you expect from meeting culture? And again, we talked about notifications earlier. I do not like notifications, so I very intentionally check Slack periodically throughout the day. But I'm doing it when I'm in control, rather letting changes happen to me. And so what you can do is just set up working agreements with people for, if there is an emergency and someone needs to get a hold of you right now, what does that process look like? How do we do that? So there's always workarounds. But establishing a working culture with your team, what is that working culture? What are our expectations? Making sure we have shared agreements about how we work together, and getting really clear about what that looks like. The next is how you think about asynchronous collaboration. Of anything I've ever experienced, really, really good asynchronous collaboration has been probably the biggest game changer for how teams and people work together. The reason for that is because you're taking the time and doing the work of thinking in advance of what's coming my way. And it means getting really good at being proactive about, what is the question that this person could ask that I want to get ahead of, so we don't have as many round trips between people. Oftentimes, when something is misaligned, the first reaction of a lot of people is like, let's get a meeting, let's talk about it. But that's not how everyone's brains work. And to I have a great quote that I love. It's like, to think well is to write well. And so being able to form your thoughts, get really clear about what you're working on, what you're doing, and what is your perspective on this particular problem. So especially as it comes to technical documents or architecture plans, right? You're thinking about how do I want to solve this problem that's been put in front of me? What is the approach I want to take? And before I even write any code, I need to wrap my head around the problem and think through it. And being able to communicate that really well is a critical skill for being an excellent collaborator. And then taking that further to be able to write it down in a way that's easily consumable, understandable, so that you can have a really rich back and forth conversation with your peers is just really essential. So think about and notice, when are we having asynchronous moments that are not going as well as they could because we didn't do the work in advance to make that go well. Next is to consider your team. So there are team dynamics. Every team is different. Every team works in different ways. And so you do need to establish some team norms. How do you do code review? What is the process for code review? How much time do you end up waiting for someone to take a look at your code before it can get merged, or before you can iterate on it? Because when you have really slow turnaround times in how you're working together, it really just interrupts flow. It increases your WIP because while you're waiting, you're going to start on something new or different. And also taking the time to turn away when someone else finishes their work in order to give them a proper code review also takes you out of context. So there's a lot you can do around talking through team norms with your team, with your manager, of like, how do we reduce the amount of waiting time, context switching, and work in progress that is going on within our teams. On top of that, having good DevOps processes so that your code can go out, so that you're not waiting for a build to finish or your tests to run or things to build locally on your machines. There's a lot of cost to that time. And again, if it's slow enough, you're going to get impatient. You're going to turn and start doing something else. You're going to task switch away. That'll be a context switch, and it'll be harder for you to get back into flow once that build starts working. So the systems that you work within is really important as well. This one I have personally experienced quite a lot, and that is having incidents or urgent issues take your time and attention away from doing really deep focused work, doing kind of the things that would then prevent hard problems from coming up. So just notice, are we a team of firefighters that are constantly keeping our house from burning down? Or are we going to be like Smokey, only you can prevent forest fires, right? So what is how can we start to work together with our team to be more proactive instead of being reactive to the incidents and issues that come up every day? It is possible. I have been through it. It is possible to take a firefighting team and turn them into one that is building great things and staying ahead of the things that are coming through on their plates. Lastly, this one's usually a little bit more outside of a developer's control, is the tools that you use, and just making sure that you need to have the tools that are going to help you be productive. There are lots of new tools with the emergence of AI in the last few years that are really awesome to experiment with and can be really helpful. But often it's even the most simple thing, like a to-do list or how I manage my to-do lists, an extra little tip or library like we saw from Andrew earlier, the ability to drag drop code. Those kinds of little tools can just be really meaningful and different. But sometimes it can be hard to get a new, more effective tool brought into an organization, especially if you're working within a larger company. So sometimes you need data to provide evidence of I'm struggling. I can't get my work done because I'm in too many meetings. I'm trying to advocate and have conversations with my team, but no one's really listening. People don't understand the real toil and the cost of that toil that's happening on me. So at UpLevel, this is what we measure, and we are helping show how much deep work is your team and how much deep work are you getting, and then where are you spending that time in deep, so in the meetings that you're spending time in, what are those? So spending 24% of your meeting time in Scrum meetings, maybe that's okay because you have a really good Scrum practice and that's how you're spending your time, and you're doing a bunch of pair programming, so you're in a lot of working sessions. And so just looking at the balance of what is really, one, am I getting enough time to get into flow? Am I creating the environment in which I can be successful at getting focus, at being productive? And then is there any room for optimization of how we're spending that time? Then you also need to understand what is the impact of meetings or fragments or interruptions on your time. So we break that down and we look at what is the total time spent in meetings per day and how much of those are short fragments. So where you have a meeting and then you have 30 minutes and then you have another meeting and then you have an hour and then you have another meeting. And those short fragments, again, as we talked about, are really negatively impacting your brain space. And so being able to squash those meetings in order to get that cleaned up in your calendar is really, really helpful, because we're basically losing 2 hours of time where you could be focusing on more deep, meaningful tasks, getting lost to those fragments. And then finally, when I do have open calendar space, how often am I being interrupted where I'm stopping what I'm doing and responding to something in Slack or switching away to go do something else? And so what are the things that are preventing me from getting my work done and being able to focus and get into flow? And then we talked about some of the processes. So looking at the data, again, what is the data here that is helping us understand where things are slowing me down? So if I'm waiting an hour before I get any feedback on my code review or my pull request, that's really slow. And then I might not get back to it until the next day. I've lost context. I have to reload what I was working on in my brain. And so it just takes time to slow you down. And so are there processes that you can actually quantify, really how long does it take to get a pull request into production, and understanding what that looks like and how long that is? Because when you can shorten that time, you can, one, you've broken work down into smaller bits, and so it's usually easier to solve when you solve a broken down problem. And two, you've looked at where's that wasted time going? Where has that been spent? So one of the big challenges, again, is how do I advocate for my time? How do I start the conversation with my manager? The first thing is just to start. You have to start. You have to bring it into the conversation, bring it into the sphere, bring it into awareness, and bring attention to the conversation of, hey, I'm just not getting enough time to stay focused, or I'm not getting what I need, or I'm just being interrupted too much. You have now some tools and some evidence of real research of the impact, the negative impact that has on your ability to focus and get your coding work done. Focus on what you can control, which is yourself. So you can control your time and your energy. So optimizing for the time and space that you have, when you work best, and how you deal with interruptions, and how and when you pick up new tasks. And then you can start to educate others, often leading by example. People will notice when you start to behave in different ways and start to be more productive and be more focused. And so have that conversation and be willing to share with others, and bring your team along with you. All right, that's it for me.
Thank you so much, Christina. This was very useful, especially for me that I am a developer advocate. So for me, content switching is very, very important. So I can't apply 100% of the things you said because I don't code much here. I'm more focused on the developer relations activities. If you have any questions, you can drop them. I have one question, like especially related to the time that you need to get feedback. So how do you measure that? Do you start a counter, or you just have an idea? Because I don't know. For example, for me, this sometimes is critical. For example, even to organize these events, usually I reach out to N people, and then I need to wait for them to come back at me. So this is a classical example, classical use case. So
Yeah.
I saw that you put a number, but how can you measure that just based on your experience?
Yeah, in that case, we're looking at the metadata of the pull request. So we see when is a pull request put into production. We're just looking at the metadata of the tools that developers are using. At UpLevel, we're not trying to track what people are doing on and so we are really trying to look at the signals that we can see. So we look at the timestamps of when did this pull request get submitted for review, and then how long did it take for someone to actually put a first comment or take a look or have some sort of reaction to it. And so we're looking at that time you spent waiting between when you started and when someone actually kind of started working on that.
Perfect. Thank you. So something can't be applied to everything I do, but I can get the idea. We have one question from Lauren Lange. How do I limit meetings? We always want to limit meetings when so many of them are just put on my calendar.
Yep, meetings happen to me. Yes, I hear that a lot from developers. It's really hard to control. My manager invited me to this meeting. I just have to show up. I think there's, it's a tricky conversation, but once being able to quantify the impact that meetings are having to your calendar can help you raise awareness of this is a big problem, or, hey, I've got just too much going on. It can start the conversation of, can we be intentional about, is this meeting a good use of my time? Do I have to be in this meeting? There's so many tools now where often meetings are recorded. We saw meeting summaries that were being posted from Jacob in our last talk. So there's a lot of ways around, like, I don't actually necessarily need to be in the meeting in order to still have the context, have the information, if you can set that up appropriately. So my biggest advice is just understand what is the impact of those meetings. Think about whether or not you need to be in that meeting and how you are planning on contributing to that meeting. And then advocate for yourself there.
Nice, thank you. And let's see, we got one more question. Like, we still have time for one or two questions, so if you want to drop them below. How can I collect this data about meeting fragment time for myself and my team? I'd love to have those charts available in Retro where I can convince my team to adjust our plans. Great one.
Yeah, so you can buy a tool like UpLevel, or you can pull everyone's calendar data and take a look at what that looks like. So it's either going to be some sort of manual data collection process. You're all developers, you're smart, you can figure that out. But it's helpful when someone's already done that before. And one of the layers of enhancements is we have an ML model that's classifying what are the different types of meetings. And so that really helps in the retrospective conversation to understand, like, okay, is it just too many meetings? Is it what kinds of meetings we're in? What else do we need to adjust here if this is really a problem for my team and our time?
Nice, thank you. Is the website uplevelteam.com?
That's right.
Okay, so I'll put this here in the link so you can check it out. And yes, so thank you so much, Christina. I think it's time even to invite Andrew back so we can do some closing remarks, and then we can wrap up. Check it out, UpLevel, we have it here. Andrew, show us the conference. I'm having a bit of FOMO because everyone is there except me.
Just adaptable, yeah. I mean, there's really too many atoms. So
I can't hear you.
Okay,
no, I can hear some noise, I would say.
Which honestly, people tag me all the time.
I can hear you, but I can hear the noise, which is strange.
At first, I was kind of new.
It's fine. We're almost at the end of
Oh, we're
this.
good. We got it.
Andrew, it was crazy because we could hear the noise, but not you. Okay, nice. So this is what you are missing out. So I was already feeling bad for all these pictures, and now Andrew is showing me this in real time because many of my friends are there. So thank you, Andrew, for sharing this. I know you're doing this on purpose, and thank you.
Absolutely, I am.
Nice. Okay, so thanks everyone for coming. I think that this was a really needed topic because maybe we talk about frameworks and which is the best programming language, but I really enjoyed these productivity focused presentations. Also, we try our best as daily.dev to improve the productivity of developers. So as you can see, there are many ways. Christina, I really loved your point of view of like doing like an early morning or late night. I am a well-known early morning person, so this was absolutely on point. I really love that. If you are in the chat, you can say hi, bye, hello. I pinned also a link, so if you want, you can give feedback, be kind with this about this event. Do you have some closing remarks, something that you want to add before we could wrap up today? Any of you? Andrew?
Yeah, I'll jump on. So, if you weren't going to be at All Things Open today, you definitely came to the second best place on the internet today to hang out at daily.dev and to learn about developer productivity. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Please reach out, and if there's anything that I can do to help you become more productive, let me know, and I'd love to be able to do that. So, and thank you so much, Francesco. Thanks so much for the invite.
You're welcome. And I can say Andrew is an example of productivity, as he can do so many things at the same time. I was doing other things while you were talking about content switching, Christina, so it was a bit funny moment. Yes.
Yeah.
Christina, I'll let you say if you want
Sure.
something before we wrap up. And thank you so much again.
Yeah, thank you for having us. Productivity is a big passion of mine. I love talking about it and hearing other tips and tricks that people have. So anyway, yeah, thank you for letting us join in on the conversation.
Thank you so much, both of you. We also thanks also to Jacob. We will make some timestamps for this talk, so we will share this again tomorrow for the people who missed them. Thank you. This is the end of this monthly event. We have one in about 4 weeks, which will be the event number 47 of this the monthly dev events. Thank you. I really enjoyed these conversations, and it's also very useful for me because as a developer advocate, we need to do many things. So this was very useful. Thanks again. Thanks everyone. Someone also, of course, I didn't share, but we got, of course, some compliments also to Christina and to Andrew. Sorry for not sharing this, but this is very important. Someone also said because yesterday it was the happy birthday of daily.dev, so we are still getting some happy belated birthday. So we are 7 now at daily.dev. Thanks again, and see you on the end of November. There will be another episode of the monthly dev, and everything here is free. You can check just daily.dev. It's also a free tool. You can check it out. We are trying to improve productivity for developers, so you spend less time checking for articles and videos, and you can just have more time for coding and maybe for yourself. Thank you so much again, and see you in the next episode. Bye everyone. Bye.